In the spring of 1841, a decision came out of South Carolina that stunned even people who thought they'd seen everything. A plantation owner named Silas Rutledge publicly handed control of his own daughter to an enslaved man. Not as a caretaker, not as a servant. As the one in charge of her life, people whispered. Some were disgusted, others were curious, but no one understood what was really happening inside that house or how it would end. Months later, 13 powerful men would be dead, and Cypress Grove Plantation would be reduced to ashes. So what happened between that man and the plantation owner's daughter? And why did it terrify everyone who got close to the truth? Let's go back to the beginning. The low country of South Carolina in early spring was heavy and suffocating. The air clung to your skin. The rivers moved slow and dark beneath trees draped in moss that looked like mourning cloth. Fields stretched for miles, flooded and shimmering under the sun. Those fields made people rich. But that wealth came at a cost paid in human suffering, and at the center of it all sat Cypress Grove. It wasn't the biggest plantation in the county, but it was enough to matter. Its owner, Silas Rutledge, had spent his life trying to climb into the upper ranks of society. He had land, money, and dozens of enslaved people, but not the kind of influence he wanted. Not yet. So he made choices, the kind of choices that traded humanity for power. Silas had a daughter, Catherine. She had grown up isolated, raised mostly by tutors, cut off from the outside world. By the time she reached adulthood, people in the county had a simple explanation for her. They said she was unstable. They said she was sick. They said she had lost her mind. But what no one knew was that Catherine wasn't broken. She was reacting to something she had seen, something no child should ever witness. Then one day everything changed. Silas received a letter, sealed, deliberate, unmistakable. It came from a secret circle of powerful men he had been tied to for years, a group that operated in the shadows, a group that believed power came from domination and sacrifice. And according to that letter, Silas owed them more than money. He owed them proof of loyalty. Their demand was simple: publicly humiliate himself by placing his daughter under the control of an enslaved man for an entire year. If he refused, everything he had built would collapse. If he accepted, his debts would disappear. He didn't hesitate as long as you might expect, because in his world, power always came first, even over family. Days later, a man arrived at Cypress Grove. His name was Ezekiel Cross. Tall, quiet, observant, not the kind of man who looked down when spoken to, not the kind of man who forgot things, and not the kind of man who had come there by accident. Here's what Silas didn't know. Ezekiel had already lost everything: his wife, his children, all sold away, and gone within months. And the man responsible for that decision was Silas. So when Ezekiel stepped onto that plantation, he wasn't there to serve. He was there for something else: patience, justice, and the right moment. The first time he met Catherine, she looked exactly how everyone described her: weak, disoriented, angry. The room she lived in was dark, heavy, suffocating. But something didn't add up, because underneath all of that, she was aware. So Ezekiel did something no one else had done. He questioned everything she had been told. What if the treatments weren't helping? What if the illness wasn't real? What if someone had been keeping her that way on purpose? That moment changed everything, because Catherine didn't react like someone hearing a lie. She reacted like someone finally hearing the truth out loud. And that's when the real story began. Over the next few days, something unexpected happened. Catherine started getting better. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily. The fog began to lift. Her thoughts became clearer. Her strength slowly returned, and as she recovered, she started talking. What she described wasn't madness. It was memory, hidden gatherings, rituals held beneath the house, men with power doing things they believed no one would ever expose, and at the center of it all, her father. Now the question wasn't whether something was wrong. The question was how deep it went, so they made a decision. Wanted to take these men down, they needed proof. And according to Catherine, that proof existed, hidden somewhere beneath the plantation, but getting it wouldn't be easy, because the same men they were trying to expose controlled everything. So they waited, they planned, they watched, and when the opportunity finally came, they moved. Late one night while the house slept, they found the entrance, a concealed doorway, a narrow descent into darkness, and the deeper they went, the worse it became. The air changed first, then the smell, then the silence, until they reached a chamber that wasn't meant to be found. Inside was everything Catherine had described, and more records, names, dates, details, years of it, enough to destroy reputations, families, entire legacies. For a moment it felt like they had won, until they realized they weren't alone. Silas had already returned, and he had been waiting. Now the balance shifted. No longer hunters, now they were trapped. And what came next was a choice. A deal was offered. Join them or die? Ezekiel understood exactly what it meant. It wasn't just survival, it was surrender. Catherine refused immediately. She would rather die than go back to silence, but Ezekiel saw something else. Time, opportunity, a way in, so he agreed, not because he believed them, but because he needed one more chance, and that chance came weeks later. On the night they expected him to prove his loyalty, they gave him a knife, gave him a victim, gave him a moment that would define everything. And for a second it looked like he might do it. Then everything changed. The blade didn't fall where they expected, and the room descended into chaos, because Ezekiel hadn't joined them. He had been waiting for this exact moment. What they didn't know was that Catherine had been planning too. She hadn't left. She hadn't run. She had been gathering people, people who had suffered, people who had lost everything, people who were ready, and when the time came, they moved together. What happened next wasn't clean. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't quiet. It was years of pain coming back all at once, and when it was over, no one from that circle remained. The house didn't stand much longer either, because before sunrise, Cypress Grove was burning. By morning, it was gone, along with everything that had happened inside it. Officially, it was an accident, a tragic fire. 13 respected men lost in a single night. No investigation, no questions, no truth. But stories don't disappear that easily. They spread quietly, from person to person, from memory to memory, about a place where power failed, about a night when things changed, and about two people who refused to stay silent. So here's the real question. Was everything truly destroyed that night? Or is there still something out there waiting to be found? Let me know what you think. And if you want more stories like this, stories where history and darkness collide, subscribe and stay tuned. Because some stories don't stay buried forever.